All right. Hey guys. Hey guys. We are doing another Facebook Live YouTube video. Looking for my brush. There we go. I have been sitting outside. It's been so beautiful, and I've been hearing so many birds. And so I've just been asking the Lord about that. You know, what's going on with all the birds? So anyway, I haven't done one of these on YouTube yet. So this is a blank canvas, obviously. And I was just going to do a little tutorial for prophetic art. Again, I love using wall brushes, giant wall brushes. They're my favorite because you can cover a lot of canvas all at one time, and it makes it really soft. I like to do little X's like that, and it makes it soft. So we are just going to add some blue background for color. So I've been thinking about cherry blossoms and almond blossoms, which they look so much alike, very similar. I love the almond blossoms because they represent awakening. They're the first tree to bud in the springtime. And so it really does represent awakening and new life. Actually, I looked at some other things. It means being watchful, wakeful, hasten. It also, to me, represents the Word of God, because in Jeremiah 1:11, when the Lord was speaking to Jeremiah, he just called him as a prophet, and he said, Jeremiah, tell me what you see. And he said he saw the branch of an almond tree budding. And he said, you see correctly, Jeremiah. And that's because I'm watching over my word to perform it. And that's what he's doing. The Lord is always watching over his word. So what prophetic art is the living word, the now word of God. And so I'm wanting to paint something today that represents what is the Lord saying today to the body of Christ. So what's he saying right now to all of us? So we're adding blue. I love blue. Blue is the color of revelation. It's the color of heaven. It's very soothing. It's the color of healing. I love to paint the edges because I don't like to leave any white canvas showing, ever, ever, ever. So, always paint your edges, guys. Paint your edges. And they don't necessarily have to frame it when you're finished, which is a good thing. And if people want to frame them, that's amazing, because they're beautiful to be when they're framed. They really are. So, as you see, I'm just kind of making like little X's, kind of wisping back and forth. That makes it very soft. It blends the paint right on the canvas. I like to blend it right on so that it's not, it doesn't destroy my palette. I don't make all the color on my palette. Plus, I want to be able to keep the different variations of the colors happening. So if you can see some white and blue are distinctively different on the canvas. And if you mix all your colors together, then you don't have, you just have one color. And we want variations. We want lights and darks and all of those things. So here is some blue. Sorry guys, this is taking so long. Usually if I'm painting live, a lot of times, because I paint a lot of live paintings, at conferences and churches, things like that. I will, a lot of times while the worship team is warming up, I'll just be going and putting my background on, because it just saves some time. So you're not spending a lot of time doing the background. But I wanted you guys to see it from the very beginning. This is kind of how it goes. And getting all my edges because we want to make sure we get them covered. It's a beautiful day. We're here in Mississippi. The sun is shining. It's lovely, and we've been hearing so many birds. And so I was asking the Lord about that. Lord, why do the birds just seem so loud right now? So loud. Like every person that calls me, they're like, oh my gosh, are you outside? I just keep hearing birds. Those birds are so loud. And I noticed it. I've been noticing it every day. It's just so loud. And so the Lord's kind of highlighting birds. And then, this is kind of odd. Yes, I'm very strange and I know it. I keep noticing birds with something in their mouth. Either I've seen I've seen two birds with worms. I've seen one with a piece of bread. And I've seen them carrying twigs and leaves, you know, and it's just kind of abnormal for me. I don't normally see that happening. And so I'm like, Lord, what are you saying? And to me, that represents provision, you know? Oh, look at that. I accidentally put brown right in the middle of my painting. Well, as my favorite Bob Ross always said, you know, there's no mistakes, just happy little accidents. So we're just going to blend that in there and let that be part of our background. Isn't that cool? And, you know, since we did that, let's go ahead and do a little bit of something else too. Let's just add it in there. I'm going to add a little more blue. I'm going to switch brushes. So I got a lot happening there. Get a dry brush. Add a little more blue. And soften this up a little bit. You just never know what's going to happen when you start painting, you know? A lot of times you're like, oh my gosh, I made a total big mistake. And then the Lord just takes it and makes it beautiful. So that's always fun. So we'll see what's going to happen here. So, let's see. Isn't that pretty? It's pretty. It just softens it up. We want some blue sky happening, but we want some other stuff happening too. I'm getting paint splattered everywhere. That's normal too. So if you're gonna paint like this a little wild, you might want to make sure you have a drop cloth or something else to catch some of that. Okay, so there's our background. Really cool. I'm gonna add a little bit more blue. I'm almost out of this blue. I love to use acrylic paint, in case you're wondering what kind of paint am I using. I use acrylic paint because it is water-based. It's very forgivable. You can dilute it. You can kind of erase it if you add a little bit of extra water. Look at that. I accidentally put pink in it that time. Okay, that's cool. I love it. So we've got something cool going on here. I love that. All right, so now I'm gonna add some branches. So I wanted to make some almond branches. Our ministry was gonna be going to Washington, D.C. this week, which I love this time of year because the almond trees are blossoming and it's so beautiful. And so I was really looking forward to that, but we're missing out in person. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna make our own. We're gonna make our own almond branches, okay? And so I'm just taking some brown and I'm just gonna be free about it. Not too deliberate with it. Just add some branches in here. Make a little gnarly there. I like gnarly branches there. Have fun, you know, when you're creating. There's no right or wrong. It's just kind of how it comes is how it comes. So I'm adding just brown, but just now I added a little bit of cream to soften it a little. And this brush is a big wide flat brush. I'm going to switch to a more thinner flat brush. so that we've got some more things happening here, a little more details. So when you're doing a branch, if you notice in nature, a branch, the closer to the trunk, the wider it is. And so as it goes out to the limbs, it gets more thin and more narrow. So you're going to want to make sure that as you go out, you kind of lift your brush off the canvas slightly so that it's lighter and thinner. You don't have as much happening. So at first you might want to press a little harder and then lift up. Remember, when you're painting, you always think about your light source. Where's the light coming in? We're just going to say the light source is up high somewhere. We don't actually have a light source in our painting. So I'm just going to imagine that the light source is coming from up high. So every branch, I'm going to imagine the bottom would be the shadow and the top would have the highlight. So wherever your light source is coming in, that's where you're going to put your highlight, and wherever it's darker, that's where you're going to add your shadow. So ours, the shadows will be under each branch. And I really want to make some of these more kind of gnarly. That's a word. I don't know. I just wanted some gnarly branches, more twisty, which I don't normally do a lot of those, but I was thinking that would be kind of fun. Since it's such a close-up painting, we're really looking right up on it. Okay. And because I've been thinking about a lot of birds, I want to have a place for my birds to sit. I want to paint a couple birds. I'm going to paint some bluebirds. And so I have to decide where I'm going to put those as well. So I was kind of thinking around here, but I put a lot of branches in here, but I could still stick it in front. So I might do a couple. Let's see. I'm going to stick another branch up here. A lot of these branches may end up getting covered the more I paint on them, because I'm going to add a lot of blossoms, and so they're going to kind of disappear as time goes. And so I need some more white. What do I do with all my colors? Here's one. Here's a new one. So, acrylic. Love it. Okay, so cherry blossoms, a lot, and almond blossoms, both are kind of very, very similar. I looked it up, they're actually cousins, so they're similar flowers. And you can have white or pink. And so what I'm going to do is do kind of a variation. Do some white ones and some not so white ones. And so they typically have, you know, I'm looking at some pictures of, as a reference, I know what does a cherry blossom look like. And they have like 5 little petals. I'm trying to see. Okay. There we go. So, we're going to do some 5 little petals. Now, because my brown is still wet, it's going to kind of smear a little bit, but that's okay. Because we're wanting this to be kind of a fun, quick painting. And so they don't necessarily have to be bright and vibrant. Some of them can be a little faded. And so you just kind of stick them on wherever, and think about, some of them are going to be facing you, some are not. So you may not be able to see the whole flower, the whole blossom. And so you just want to stick them on in different places. And so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll take the other color and I'm mixing some white and pink, because I'm going to do kind of my center, kind of a little sunburst almost thing happening out of the center of my blossoms. Like that. And then I might actually decide, well, you know, I'm going to do some I'm gonna do some pink ones too. So I'm gonna do some pink blossoms. See, that one had brown on it. But see, it kind of looks pretty when it's got it's all blended and kind of not perfect. And that's the thing about painting that makes it fun. It doesn't have to be perfect. Don't make it perfect. Just have a good time while you're doing it. That's the point, right? There we go. All right, I'm sticking some on here. And so that'll go on and on and on. That'll take a while, so I won't do them all right now. But I was gonna start a bird, just so you guys can see what that looks like. So what you wanna do is you wanna find a picture kind of for reference so that you know what your bird's gonna kind of look like. And you don't wanna copy someone else's artwork. So you wanna find something that is usually a photograph of some sort. And I'm doing a bluebird. And so I'm gonna do one, I kind of think I'm gonna do it over here. So I'm gonna do the head. And so if you guys can see, hopefully I'm not blocking you. There we go. Do the head. And you can start light. A lot of times, especially if I'm doing an animal, I'm gonna do it kind of diluted so that it's easier to erase if I mess up. I can kind of fix it a little bit and tweak it. So there we go. This is the blue part of the bird. And I'm using, this brush it's more of a flat angled brush. It's real small, thin. And I'm gonna grab some cream, white and cream to do the neck of the bird. And then the chest. So we're gonna stick it out this way and down here. There we go. Okay. Simple. Simple, simple. Okay, now for the beak and the eye and all the details, you wanna find something really small. This one I call my signature brush because you always need a brush that's gonna be nice and pointy. And a lot of times I'll just wet my brush and I'll use my fingertips to make it nice and pointy. And you just barely want to touch when you're doing something small, because if you push real hard, you're gonna make it big. You want to use just the tip. This is the most challenging part for a lot of folks. If you're doing your signature or anything tiny, you've got to just use the tip. You barely get your paint in the water, or in the color. And then you just do it with the very, very, very tip. Very tip. If you press down, you're gonna make it big. And we don't wanna do that. So there's that. And the eye is actually gonna be kind of a black, but I'm gonna start with brown because it's a little easier to fix if I don't like the way it came out. Okay, so his head, I'm like not loving his head right now. So I'm going to shave a little off the top of his head. Look at that. Really easy. Because it's the background's still wet, the paints are wet, and so it's coming off really easy. So kind of smoothing it out. Even his beak was a little too fat, and so I can shave a little off of that too. See? Easy, easy peasy. So I'm gonna add a little bit more. And then we need his feet, and I'm gonna do kind of I'm not gonna really focus on his feet. So I'm just gonna stick them in there where they kind of would be. And on a bluebird, he has a little bit of a rust color under his neck. And so I'm gonna add that in there. A little bit of rust, and he has a little bit of rust even down here. See? Now his feathers, if we want to do more detail on his feathers, now this is real wet, so it's a little hard to add the details on it right now. But I'm gonna use some light blue on it, kind of smooth it out a little. And I need some darker blue. A little bit of dark blue. There we go. So just kind of, you want to be subtle, you know, I'm not trying to make it perfect, but I want it to look somewhat realistic, you know. So you just kind of tweak it a little bit here and there. All right, now I'm gonna fix his eye just a little bit, add a little bit more darker. I think I'm gonna add the black. Oh, there he is. That's the bird. But then I can add a lot more flowers, a lot more details. I'll probably use my signature brush to get the inside of these cherry blossoms, or the almond blossoms. Let me find another picture. They have like a little bit of yellow in them, or gold. And so I'll probably use my signature brush to do that. Maybe add a little brown dots on them, you know, kind of add a little detail. So each one will be more detailed. You see that? Well, I hope you enjoyed it today. I'll finish the painting and then I will post it so you can see the finished product. You guys have an awesome, awesome day. Blessings.